Hey guys, you're listening to Story and Songs, and before we get into the story, any animators who like my work, please leave a comment for collaborations. Okay, so this story is inspired by Bury a Friend by Billie Eilish. Billie felt like she was stuck in a nightmare. With a knife in her hand, she scanned the room with fear in her eyes. When all this started weeks ago, she had no idea it will all end like this. It all started on that windy, rainy day. The lockdown was going on due to the coronavirus thing, and Billy was sitting in her bedroom staring outside on the gently falling rain. She was reading a novel, the one she had read a few times already. However, that book provided comfort, and she badly needed that. For as long as she could remember, she had been sad. Anxiety issues, bullied childhood, and broken hearts was all she saw when she looked back on her life. And now, her brother, the only ray of sunshine in her life, was dead, and she couldn't even be at the funeral. He died of cancer, and due to the lockdown, she couldn't even be with the family back in Peru. In retrospect, she shouldn't have left when her brother was so critical for the job offer here in Dublin. However, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it was getting increasingly hard for her to see him like that. She saw the funeral on video call, and she was not able to forgive herself for missing an opportunity to kiss him goodbye. As she went to her living room to grab a book, she saw the weird lady in the neighboring house watering her plants through the window. She looked up towards Billy and gave her that caring smile that she always used to give. As usual, Billy gave her an awkward smile and went back to her room. That was when it happened for the first time. The gate to her bedroom opened and closed by itself. At that time, she had too much on her mind to think anything about that, and dismissed it as a gust of wind. Over the next week, the storm slowly grew in intensity, and weird things started happening regularly inside the house. Once she was in the kitchen, just fixing something to eat for herself, when the taps started running by themselves and suddenly closed. At the time, Billy tried to reason with herself that maybe it was due to the change in pressure that had happened. She lived in an old one-bedroom house on the outskirts of the city, with a forest starting right outside her back door. She got the place for cheap, and she was bound to have some thoughts of ghosts in the place. However, it was about 10 days after the death of her brother that she started to feel something weird was going on at that place. She had completed her novel again and going towards her living room to get some work done on her laptop, when she felt like something cold passed through her. She froze in her place, and she looked back at the hallway. A pale blue shadow of another person peered back at her in horror and disappeared as soon as it came. She grabbed her laptop and ran back inside her bedroom. She slammed the door shut. She knew she had to call someone. Maybe she was going crazy. However, both her laptop and cell phone had died, as there was a power outage due to the storm. She was very scared. However, she couldn't even run out of the house, as the streets had flooded due to the storm that brewed violently outside. Over the next few days, the house felt like a minefield of sorts. Weird noises started to come from various corners of the house, and that cold feeling of someone passing through her became very commonplace. Even inside the bedroom, she would sometimes hear people talking. Despite that, she never understood what they were saying. However, one day, about 2 weeks from the day it all started, she was tiptoeing across the hallway when she felt something seize her body. She felt fear, but it was not hers. It was the fear of somebody else. It was like sleep paralysis. Although she tried her best, she couldn't move her body herself. Somebody else was moving it for her. She screamed and screamed in a state of fright, but in vain. When she eventually got control back, she ran into her bedroom crying, jumped onto her bed and put the bedsheet over her face. Like a kid who thinks if he covers himself, the monster under his bed wouldn't be able to see him. Although she knew that it would not be of much use, her fear prompted her to start sleeping with a knife on her bedside table. Sleep was hard to come by, and around midnight, as the fear increased, she started hearing voices again. Quiet whispers of people talking in a foreign tongue. She was terrified. However, eventually she gathered enough courage to peek beyond her bedsheet. Although she could see nobody, the voices continued to haunt her. After about 4 hours of crying to God for escape, she was tired of being scared, and in that fear, she picked up the knife and she scanned the room with fear and tears in her eyes. She gave a terrifying scream for the entities to show themselves, as if screaming to be released from a gas chamber. A shadowy blue figure appeared near the door, trying to open it, and Billie jumped on it with the scared ferocity of a cornered tiger. She plunged the knife deep into the figure's neck as it was about to get out of the room. A bright light appeared near where the shadowy figure was on the ground, and a man stood up in its place. He walked into the light with the silence of a defeated man. Although she tried following him, she couldn't get into the light. "What is happening?" she screamed. Suddenly she heard a voice from the light. "I am sorry, my dear. Those who have rejected the gift of life by killing themselves will not be allowed into heaven. You shall be imprisoned in your nightmare forever and forget the passage of time with the passage of time." She remembered now. Her death had come at her own hands by the knife she held. She saw the wounds on her hand where she had cut her wrists. Dejected, she went into the living room and she again saw the ghost lady in the neighboring house through the window, who beamed a caring smile at her, a smile that said she knew how it felt. For just a moment, Billie didn't feel alone, and she smiled back at her. In the very moment, Billie appeared back inside her bedroom with no memory of what just happened, quietly reading the novel she loved. This was third such death at the haunted house on Hatchet Drive, with the ghost of the girl with the staple tongue. There was never a storm outside, only the one in her mind. It stopped her from going outside. For Billie, fear was the key. More she was afraid, more she felt the fears of others around her, dead or alive. So tell me, would you think of giving up? If even giving up didn't stop the pain?